I'm about to tell you something that's going to flip everything you think you know about voodoo queens on its head. Marie Laveau, wasn't some dark sorceress conjuring spirits in the Louisiana swamps. She was a hairdresser, a businesswoman, a free woman of color navigating one of the most brutal, segregated cities in America. And somehow, her name became synonymous with magic, mystery, and fear. The legend says one thing, the records say another. Let's find out what's real. New Orleans in the 1800s was a powder keg. French, Spanish, African, Caribbean. Cultures all crammed into one humid, swampy port city. The Catholic Church ran the show on paper, but underneath, Creole society had its own rules, its own hierarchies. If you were a free person of color, you lived in this impossible in-between space, more freedom than the enslaved, but never enough to be safe. Marie Laveau was born in 1801 into that world. The records are thin, frustratingly thin, but we know she worked as a hairdresser. She wasn't born into wealth, she wasn't born into power, but she built both. Here's where myth and truth start to tangle. Some stories say she was a priestess from birth, that she learned secret rites from her mother. Others say she was a con artist. But if you look at what we actually know, client lists, newspaper mentions, court documents, you see a woman who understood something crucial. Information is currency. And in a city built on gossip, secrets, and social control, she became the bank. I'm telling you right now, this wasn't about casting spells. This was about knowing who owed what to whom, who was sleeping with whom, who needed help and couldn't ask the church. Let's talk about Voodoo. Voodoo, not the Hollywood voodoo. This is a syncretic faith that blends West African spiritual practices with Catholicism, born out of survival and resistance in Haiti and Louisiana. It's not about dolls and hexes. It's about ancestors, spirits called LWA, community healing, protection. But the white press in the 1800s, they turned it into a horror show. Every ritual became a dark rite. Every gathering became a threat. And Marie Laveau, because she was visible, because she was unapologetic, became the face of that fear. But here's the thing, she used that fear. As a hairdresser to the wealthy white women of New Orleans, she was in their homes, doing their hair, hearing their confessions. They told her everything, affairs, debts, fears, schemes, and she remembered. Whispers turned into power. She'd counsel a client, maybe perform a ritual, maybe just give advice wrapped in the language of faith. To her community, she was a healer, a mediator, someone who could navigate both worlds. To the press, she was a witch. The truth? She was a strategist. Congo Square, St. John's Eve. If you've heard of Marie Laveau, you've probably heard of these. Congo Square was one of the only places enslaved and free black people could gather openly, and it became this incredible site of music, dance, and spiritual expression. St. John's Eve, June 23rd, was the big one. Rituals by Bayou St. John, bonfires, drumming, dancing, offerings to the spirits. The white press described it like some kind of occult frenzy, but testimonies from participants, they talk about community, healing, protection, renewal. Marie Laveau led some of these gatherings, and yeah, that added to the legend. But strip away the sensationalism and what you see is a woman holding space for her community in a city that wanted to erase them. She blended Catholic saints with African spirits. St. Peter became Papa Legba, Mary became Ursuli. Altars held rosaries and candles and gris-gris bags. This wasn't contradiction. This was survival. This was making a faith that could exist in a world that criminalized your existence. And when she died, they buried her in St. Louis Cemetery No. 1, where people still leave offerings. Not because they think she'll curse them, because they remember what she built. Marie Laveau didn't just vanish into myth. She had a daughter, Marie Laveau too, who carried on the work. Some historians think the two Maries blurred together in public memory, which made the legend even harder to pin down. But what's clear is this. The Voodoo Queen became a brand, a tourist attraction. By the early 1900s, white-owned tour companies were selling tickets to voodoo experiences, often mocking or exploiting the very traditions Marie had protected. Today, you can buy Marie Laveau candles, potions, t-shirts. Her grave is covered in X marks. Tourists think it grants wishes, but that's not part of the actual tradition. It's folklore on top of folklore. So what do we do with that? Real talk. We remember her as a real person, a free woman of color who built power in a system designed to crush her, a spiritual leader who served her community, not a cartoon, not a Halloween costume. If you're going to invoke her name, do it with respect. Learn the history. Understand what Voodoo actually is. Because Marie Laveau's legacy isn't about magic tricks. It's about resilience, strategy, and faith in the face of everything. Listen, I don't know if Marie Laveau could see the future or commune with spirits. I don't know if her gris-gris bags carried literal power, but I know she wielded influence in a world that tried to make her invisible. I know she built a network, protected her people, and became a legend that still echoes today. The real magic? That's what she did with the hand she was dealt. That's the legacy. Remember her name, Marie Laveau, and remember the woman, not just the myth.